Because salt, SOS, salt, oil, and sugar. You go to a place like I say, Whole Foods, and everything in that salad bar has salt, oil, and sugar. It's supposed to be healthy, right? Even when they have lettuce and greens. Greens are the most healthiest thing in the world, but they put the SOS, salt, oil, and sugar. If you want to lose weight and you want it without and being happy and joyous and doing it, go to God's gift and get the clarity here. Don't get all this processed stuff. Oil and sugars are processed. They're condensed, right? Even though it comes from nature, sugar, it's processed. And all the processed food, flour, sugar, all of that, it's not from God. These things are from God. And also, I have here a can of peas and broccoli, spinach. Popeye was right with the spinach. And it's totally healing and amazing. And the way you know that is, we don't have to do more scientific research. You go on the internet and you look around the world in the places. Some places, heart disease is not existent. Their cancer rates are much lower, and all the other diseases. Type 2 diabetes, forget about it. They don't even in many countries. But when it's called the SAD, Standard American Diet, SID, or MOD, Modern American Diet, when the Mad American Diet, when those came over there and all the people started to exhibit it again. There are some cultures that didn't have type 2 diabetes, but it turns out they had a great propensity for it, because now that these bad foods are there, they're all getting type 2 diabetes. So, and it used to be maturity onset diabetes, it was because it was for adults. Now the children are getting it. The point I'm making is that even if you have in your family, say, some illnesses like heart disease and all of these things, that when you eat correctly and eat the right foods, that these things can be alleviated, even though you had it genetically disposed for it. And it's proven, like I say, in these societies, they didn't have it, but now they have it tremendously, showing their bodies really could got the type 2 diabetes. It shows the curative nature of these things. But anyway, so type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, these are the risks of being stroke, sleep apnea, metabolic syndromes, fatty liver disease, osteoarthritis, gallbladder diseases. But the problem is that knowing all of that, and we'll go back to the big book on page 24, what does it say? The fact is just this, that most alcoholics and compulsive overeaters, for reason yet obscure, have lost the choice of power of eating and drinking. So even though I mentioned to you all of these crazy, crazy diseases that we get, we don't have the power. Can you imagine that, knowing somebody knows they're going to die from these foods? These terrible foods we have, all processed chemicals, and the food has 50 ingredients when it should just have one. Look on the package. Our so-called willpower becomes practically non-existent. So why is that? Why, after all of this and understanding, someone, it's like having a gun to your head, and somebody says, don't say this, and you say it, right? It's the same thing with our food. We have a gun to our head with the food, and yet we keep on putting it down our mouth, right? And it goes on to say, we are unable at certain times to bring to a consciousness with sufficient force the memory of suffering, humiliation of even a week. It's on page 24 in italics. For some reason, they put in italics, meaning it's important, right? Or a month ago, we are without defense against the first drink. It says here we're out defense. What does step 1 say? Step 1 says we're powerless, but we keep on. Why does it keep on failing? Why do I have to? It's crazy after all, and you all know here, why do all of these diets fail? Why does, when we try in life to get people to like us, why does it fail? What are all of these things? And this program has a solution called the spiritual solution. It says in the doctor's opinion there's only one solution, and that solution is on page 25, but also in the first 164 pages of this book, it's on every page. Spiritual comfort, and that was the main theme here. It surpasses everything else. It surpasses our anger, resentment towards people, our need to have food to fill us up, making that a higher power. We get centered. All the answers we intuitively know. But the reason when we try and take our self-will back, when I say I got to resist this, or I shouldn't be angry, I shouldn't be resentful, it doesn't work. We're using the same crazy mind. What does step 2 say? It's telling us in step 2, right? We go to step 1. We admit we're powerless over everything, right? And then step 2 says, came to believe a power greater than ourselves can restore us to sanity. So what is it saying? It's saying we're insane. And how could your insane thinking resolve something? Because your best thinking got you here. So it says the power greater than ourselves. Ourselves is the ego. The power is in there all the time. We're creating God's image. So when we get centered and out of the self, our self is what people told us and what the society told us we had to be. So step 3 said we made that decision, first of all, just a decision, to turn our will and our lives over to care of something higher. And it says here, it surpasses all worldly delights and bodily pleasures, spiritual comfort. We start to see, and on page 25 again, why is this called, this chapter, There is a Solution? I wonder why. It tells us here, we approach by those in the second paragraph in whom the problem had been solved. And it tells you the solution here. There was nothing left for us. We hit bottom. We tried everything. For years, I used to have shelves full of self-help books. I went to every expert. It could be a diet expert. It could be an expert, a psychological expert, all kinds of therapy, everything, trying to figure it out. And I'm actually, Roland Hazard tried to do that, and it talks about that on page 26, 27. He went to see Dr. Jung. He was the greatest psychologist along with Freud at the time, right over there in Europe. And he went there to no avail until he went back again, and the doctor said he has seen people recover. It's called a spiritual solution, a change of perception. And it says here, if you want to get out of your addictions to everything in life and all your problems solved, it says right here, pick up the word simple, kit of spiritual tools laid at our feet. We complicate everything. We try to figure everything out, and we make it complicated. We have found so here it is. Here's the solution. We have found much of heaven. We've been rocking the fourth dimension. So when you're in the fourth dimension, you don't need people to like you. You don't need big plates of food. You don't need the garbage of corporations are telling you. They're lying to you about all of that just to make money. You don't need the drugs, the alcohol, because the real God-given bliss and happiness is within us. Look at a child the way they are. Or how about, if you see a puppy dog, it can't think on a higher level. Every day they say is the best day of its life. And same with children. They say they could enter the kingdom, right? They always say that. And how about as adults? We can enter the kingdom. We can be happy. We can have spiritual comfort. The reason we do everything with our addictions, the reason we society tells us to get rich and to be successful is all to be happy. But we're looking on everything on the outside with the food, with the money, with the success. And it's momentary pleasure. And the other side of pleasure is just as much pain. Do you follow that? It's just as much pain because you don't have it and you want more. It's never enough. So we have a solution here. Then we have what the natural, real truth is with your addiction is the wholesome nature, the nature of natural foods. And I always bring up I have the water and I have actually I don't even have the water. Oh, here it is. So here's the water, right? God's gift to us, getting clarity with the fruit. I also have here, because I'm not a big cook, but I have here a can of beans. Beans are amazing. These are things that are from the ground, it's just amazing and nutritious and also they're low salt. I actually thought about this. I woke up one morning and I thought of this. Here it goes. So the guy is beggar in the street. He was a really poor guy, and he was always very happy and gloriously happy. And the king couldn't believe it. He'd go by there every day, and this guy was like just happy, blissful. So the king said to the guy, he goes, listen, you got to tell me what it is you think about. I want to know. I'm the king. You have to tell me. And the guy started thinking. He goes, he couldn't figure out why he was so happy and why every time he was joyous when he woke up every morning. So the king said to one of his guards, listen, go over there and choke the guy until he tells me. So the guard goes over and keeps on choking the guy, and the guy goes, finally, and he choked him. The king says, you better tell me who's going to choke you to death. And the poor guy just yelled it, and he said to the king, let go, let go, let go. He said to the guard, let go. So there we go. So there's the solution to our problem. What more do we need to know? It's about letting go of the self, the ego, self-will,